Traders, we have got a great guest for you at Simply Forex. He's been trading for 6 years now, and he is the founder of Market Maestro Academy. So please welcome Jordan to the show. How
Thank
are you,
you.
Jordan?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Tom. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. And you said you were calling from New York, the New York area.
That's correct. That's correct. From
Uh,
New York, I was actually born and raised in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay,
I've
cool.
been here all my life.
Yeah, I like New York. It's a good night out.
Yep. Oh, you know it. You know it. Never sleeps.
No, yeah, and I didn't sleep, if I remember rightly. But yeah, good to have you on, Jordan. And Jordan's kindly agreed to basically discuss his trading journey. So we're going to sort of find out where he started, some of the experiences he had along the way, and where he is now with his trading. And he's also going to share, a typical setup for him in the markets as well. So definitely stay tuned for that, guys. And
Yep.
also, as we have a chat, if you like what Jordan has to say, then please check out all the links below. And yeah, go pay Jordan a visit on his social media. So
Perfect.
Jordan, yeah, I guess we should start with where it all began. So what sort of inspired you to get into trading? Was it someone or something? Where did it all
Mhm.
start?
So I first started. I was in college, and my whole goal was to become a doctor.
Okay.
And I was a pre-med major, and I was going along that track. And eventually, along the way, I realized, probably from working in the hospital, I realized it's not really what I wanted.
Okay.
Asked myself if I could make that kind of money and not have to deal with what they had to deal with, would I do it? And the
Yeah,
answer was
sure.
yes. Later on, realized that, maybe my heart wasn't fully into it. So I started looking at different ways to, become an entrepreneur, to make
Hmm.
money. I fell
Okay.
upon real estate, started taking that seriously, went to real estate program, real estate school, and I started off getting a property. So I thought that was a big accomplishment. But then I had a blocker where, at least with real estate, it's rather, well, not easy, but much more simple to get your first property. But now, when it comes to getting your next property, you're putting significantly more equity down in order to do that. So now
Okay.
that was a bit of a blocker for me. I'm like, how
Hmm.
do I generate that kind of capital to get to these properties much faster? So then, lo and behold, I fell upon a family friend who came in town. He
Hmm.
came in town around the time I was about to propose to my girlfriend at the time,
Okay.
and
Did she say yes,
after
Jordan?
she did say yes, she
Yeah,
did
okay,
say yes.
good.
She's my wife now. But so at the time, I just heard him say something crazy like he owned 22 houses and he was really fairly young.
Okay.
And I was quite curious about that because that was right up my alley.
Yeah, sure.
And his as he explained himself, he said that, well, he makes money through the forex market, and
Okay.
he then even invests that money through real estate. And it was the
Okay.
first time I ever heard of forex. I'm used to stocks and I'm used to things of that nature, but it's the first time I heard of this type of market.
Yeah, sure.
So as he started, opening up the charts and showing
Mm.
me a couple of things, I realized, wow, he kind of does know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And let me do my research and figure out what this thing is.
Okay.
So went through a whole lot of trial and error, went through a whole lot of research, trying to figure it out. Fell upon MLMs, multi-level marketings, and then eventually found my footing, found my way out of that, and found my way into really learning the craft. And that looked like taking a whole bunch of courses,
Mm.
some good, some okay, some not so good,
Yeah,
most
yeah.
of them not so good, right? But I don't regret any of it because ultimately what I tell traders is it's okay to go through the learning, even if you want to pay for some learning, just because
Mm.
you'll eventually learn what doesn't go with you and
Yeah.
what does go with you. Or you may take a piece of something that this trader does and maybe it does work with you. So that whole journey of going through different courses, different people's strategies definitely allowed me to know what really stuck with me, what I was comfortable with, and what I just wasn't comfortable with.
Yeah.
So eventually, down the road, the journey was extremely tough, right?
Mm. Mm.
So, been trading seriously for 6 years, only been profitable for probably the last two.
Okay.
So the journey was extremely tough, and the funny thing is, most of the journey is that you go through a phase where you know what you're doing. You kind of you're not necessarily a loser, but you're kind of at that break even stage,
Yeah,
and you can't necessarily like get over the hump. So I
yeah,
spent so much time at that stage, and I think a couple of things that helped me was really just reviewing every single trade, win or lose. And I
okay,
think, underrated thing is going over your winners as well, because
yeah,
some winners are winners by accident, and some
mm-hmm.
winners are because you actually followed your rules and you want to repeat that habit.
Yeah,
So
true.
really going over my work, really making sure I get a good grasp of what I'm doing on the charts, but most of all, it's really just experience over time on
Yeah,
the charts, seeing things over and over and over, being aware of them, applying my strategy in a way where I'm in full knowledge of everything around me, the environment around me, seeing it before, the experience, the actual trading plan, executing that gets better over time, and
yeah.
lo and behold, you see yourself much more profitable.
And it's a really good point there, Jordan. Trading's such a personal thing. Like I can give
Yeah,
somebody one strategy and they won't be able to trade it. I could give that strategy to someone else and they'd kill it.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
so,
yeah.
like you say, take little bits from everywhere and find something that suits you ultimately, because you're going to be the one trading it, obviously. And
Yes.
and another great point, the first bit of trading is almost get to break even, stop losing money, right?
Oh yeah. Oh
Once
yeah.
you start getting to that, break even level at least,
Yeah.
that breeds confidence, right? And then that confidence
100%.
grows, and you get to that profitable stage, and then you got the wind behind your back. And you said a big part of that was journaling. So that really helped
Yeah.
you to understand your strategy, what you were doing wrong, tweaks you could make.
Yep.
And
Yep.
if you
Yep.
think of, did your strategy change drastically over time? Like what you first started out as an idea of a strategy, did it become something
Mhm.
quite different at the end, or was it already all still based on the same fundamental things?
I would say yes, it was based on still some of the most fundamental things. I did have to go through a lot of the more complicated things to realize that, I don't need all of them. So
Mm,
I went through learning all of the different types of patterns and all of the different types of, all of the different types of flags and the double tops and the teacups and, all of these different types of terminologies. I went through so many indicators, MACD, EMAs, MAs, all of that stuff, RSI, dabbled in everything, and then all just to come back to just the basic principle,
mm.
just support and resistance,
Yeah.
breakouts, waiting for confirmation, as simple as that.
Yeah,
And
trends. Yeah,
it's as simple as that. And I tag my the name of my strategy BC30, which stands for break close 30, where I am looking at an area of consolidation, finding the support and resistance, waiting for that breakout and a close on the 30-minute. That's my confirmation, and I get in on the next candle. And it's as simple as that. And I know
okay.
sometimes traders just come and they're looking for something that's complicated because they feel like,
Yeah.
that golden, trading plan should be complicated, but it's
Mm.
really not that at all. It should be fairly, fairly simple. It should be fairly, fairly boring. And
Yeah.
you should be able to see it at a high success rate.
Yeah, Jordan, we are preaching from the same sheet. Honestly, I'm like slow, dull, boring, simple.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what you want. You don't, with trading, it's us that complicates it. It is quite,
yeah,
don't get me wrong, trading's not simple, but
It's
the
not the
idea of
worst
it is
feeling.
simple. We follow trend, it
I'm
breaks a
very
support and resistance level, we get in on the trade,
fun.
right?
It's
It
feeling
is
very
simple.
I'm sorry, Tom. My Alexa's going off. Alexa,
Okay,
stop.
no problem. This
It's
is
telling
this
me
is
the
live,
temperature.
no
Sorry about
problem.
that.
No problem. But yeah, it is my point was it is simple. You
Yeah,
have an area, you have a breakout, you're getting on the breakout. It's us
yeah,
that
yeah.
overcomplicates it.
100%.
So
100%.
thinking about us and overcomplicating it, and I've been there as well, where I've used every indicator under the sun, and I was
Yeah,
just lost with indicators. I really
yeah.
was, and once I got rid of them, started to get some consistency.
Yep,
But
yep.
but psychologically, how has things changed? What are some of we're always trying to give our traders tips, advice.
Hmm.
What psychologically changed for you to go from losing trader consistent and then
Yeah.
profitable?
This is one of my biggest tips. This is one of my biggest realizations. I realized to trade effectively, in a way, you have to live effectively. So you're trying to do something repeatedly. You're trying to repeatedly do the same thing over and over and over again. That's pretty much what you're trying to do on the charts. Execute your plan every single time, no matter what. Keep your emotions in check. You also have to build that outside of trading. You also need a routine that is pretty strict outside of trading, where you can rely on yourself. At least for me, I'm waking up early. I'm waking up at 4 a.m., in the gym at 5 a.m., getting up on the charts, doing all the things that require me to be successful, where I feel good, where I feel accomplished. And when I get on the charts, it becomes much more simple to actually be that stoic, that robotic self
Yeah.
that it requires, because my whole life, is kind of like that. In other words, the word is discipline, right? The
Yeah.
discipline that you need to exude on the charts has to be in
Mm,
your life. It
mm.
becomes very, very hard to be an undisciplined person and then be disciplined at a craft. It's not the easiest thing to translate that, if you're just undisciplined, right? If you
Yeah.
are disciplined, it becomes so much more simple to translate that in other areas of your life. So
Yeah.
that for me is one of the biggest thing a trader could do to improve their psychology overall. I think overall as well, the second tip is that you just kind of have to let experience play its course.
Mm,
And I think sometimes traders come in and one of the biggest lies is that you're gonna just come in and you're just gonna dominate things.
mm.
And that would be a lie. If I said it would be a lie,
Yes.
if anybody said it would be a lie.
Yes.
There are just certain times in the charts, in the market, it's not even like that your strategy is so great. It's not even that, it's not any of that. It's just that you've been here before, you've seen this
Mm,
environment before. I've gone through an election season before. I've
yeah.
gone through Brexit before. I know
Mm,
this environment. I tend to know what it's
yeah.
likely to do. I've seen the setup over and over. It's just a feel for things, right? And you
Yeah.
can't teach that. I can teach you
Yeah.
strategies. I can give you psychology tips, but I can't teach you the experience. So
Yeah.
that may be that missing point where you just got to allow yourself to just go through the course, stay in the game,
Yeah.
still do your learning, but let that experience teach you and take note of it and learn from it the next time.
Yeah, 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 and that feel, we talk about that feel a lot, and that feel basically is experience. Like you say,
Yeah,
you've been there,
yeah.
done it before, and and so many traders give up before they get to that stage, right?
Yep.
Maybe they've
Yep.
blown an account, or they're just, their lifestyle isn't compatible with it. They don't have the free time to commit, and it's just, yeah, you just got to stay in it long enough
Absolutely.
to give
Absolutely.
yourself a chance.
Yes.
And another thing we always talk about on our channel is, like, so any strategy, you are going to have losing trades.
Yeah.
And, that was a big thing for me. So that's why I tried so many different indicators. I would be trading, I'd have an indicator, I'd get a losing trade, I'd change the indicator or tweak the
Hmm.
indicator. So,
Hmm.
so many people are looking for this holy grail, where there's very minimal losses. And as you know, it's just unrealistic. And you were talking
Yeah.
about that
Yeah.
earlier. So how do you deal with losses, or, and how has that changed as well?
Great question. I think on that point, traders tend to change because I certainly did it, changing strategy after strategy. Once you go through two losses in a row, three losses, you
Mm,
want to change the strategy. And the key thing is understanding sample size, right? You're in a
yeah.
percentage game. Any strategy that you are using, and to be very honest, almost every strategy works. It just depends on the person who's executing the strategy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But you need a large enough sample size to be able to test whether this strategy is going to work for you.
Mhm.
So the example I usually use is, if you're going based on 10 trades, you may win the first three trades. Sure, you may win the first three trades, and then you lose the next four trades, and then win the rest of the trades. But when you lose four trades in a row, what happens is you tend to think the strategy doesn't work. But
Yes.
if you had a sample size of the next 100 trades,
Mm.
perhaps you win 60 trades. Who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah.
Right? We're not in control of when those losses come, but we
Mm.
know over time that that ratio is going to balance out and is going to show itself on whether it's a strategy that's good for you or not.
Yeah.
But you do have to stay in the game long enough and give the strategy enough room to
Mm.
show its results. The
Yeah.
other thing is, are you fair on how you're documenting wins and losses?
Mm.
Meaning, did you follow everything that your strategy plan detailed and you took a loss? Because that's a legit loss to me. When I
Yes.
followed every single thing
Mm.
and then I still lost. But what happens is traders just don't follow the plan.
Yeah.
They lose and they blame it on the strategy. And that's
Mm.
not a strategy loss.
Yes.
That's a you not following your rule loss.
Yeah.
Effectively understanding what's a legit loss towards the strategy and what's a
Mm.
loss just because you didn't follow your rules is really really important as well to
Yeah.
decipher if that strategy is working or not. So for me right now, I obviously I've gone through my strategy year after year, but now I know it's a strategy that works for me because
Mm.
I've gone through the sample sizing. I've gone through going those periods of loss. One thing I didn't mention just yet is that understanding what season your strategy works in. Market conditions change.
Yeah.
So even though I've had a season where I was very, very profitable from like March all the way through August,
Mm.
and then in September it's like I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
And that's again the experience thing that many traders can't teach you.
Mm.
Market conditions change. Not
Mm.
that your strategy doesn't work. It's just not working right now, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Perhaps you change a different strategy that works for the current market condition.
Mm.
Perhaps you take a break, right?
Yeah.
Whatever works for you. But understanding the different ebbs and flows of the market, that
Yeah.
sometimes it is you, sometimes it's not you, sometimes sometimes it's this,
Yeah.
sometimes it's that. Understanding what it is and being able to diagnose the problem and then find a solution for the problem
Yeah.
is what comes with experience.
Yeah, that's a great point. My strategy will have, there's just months where you've been doing great, you've had a great few months
Yeah,
behind you, and then just market conditions are not compatible with your system, with your
yeah,
strategy. So how
yeah.
how it's a great point. But how do you react to that, Jordan? Do you take time out? Do you slightly tweak your strategy? What do you
hmm
apply when that happens?
Yeah, yeah. For me, it depends. If market is really, really choppy, I can find myself not trading for the week.
Mm.
If I can't find a setup that goes with my strategy.
Mm.
If I am finding the setups and it's just that I'm not getting what I'm used to getting on a trade,
Mm.
I will have to significantly decrease my profit goal on that trade.
Yeah.
I will have to significantly decrease. Sometimes I may have to also increase my stops and lower my risk size on
Yeah.
the trade just because market may be really choppy. I'm getting big wicks and all of that
Yeah.
stuff is going my direction, but the wicks are significantly bigger towards the opposite side, and I need to give the trade a little bit more room to breathe. So
Yeah.
I will go through that kind of analysis after maybe you could say three, four straight losses. Then I'm
Mm.
like, okay, am I dealing with a different market environment here?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
If I am, then I need to adjust. Not going to force it, of course, but if it is there, proceed with caution, lower your risk size, maybe increase the stop loss just a bit, go for a smaller target, and you
Yeah.
should be able to maintain, at least stay in the game. Not saying you're going to make those big profits, but you should be able to stay in the game.
Tick over. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And generally, that's what I do when the market is not compatible with me, is just reduce targets, right?
yeah,
Make your
yeah,
trade more achievable to hit target, right?
absolutely.
It's about
Absolutely.
increasing that win percentage almost, right?
Absolutely.
For the
Absolutely.
sake of pips,
Yep.
so
Yep.
yeah, it's really interesting. And
Yeah.
then so, so we talked about psychology, money and risk management, not so much, but thinking of money and risk management and strategy, and your trading edge overall, what would
hmm
you say was some of your real strengths, Jordan, as you developed as a trader, and what are some things you had to work on? Because, an important part of being a trader is knowing what you're good at and what you're not so good
hmm
at.
hmm
And what would you say were your strengths? And it's always a very difficult question. What were some of your weaknesses? But what did you find that you had to spend a bit more time on and was more difficult to overcome?
I think most of the things are a little bit difficult to overcome. What I could clearly say is my strength is I'm not going to quit.
Mm.
I think that is a strength because
Yeah.
most traders do quit.
Mm.
Um, I just wasn't gonna quit. No, no matter what, I was gonna figure it out. I was completely fine going into my 80s, still trying to figure out how to make the trading thing work. So I think that for me
I'm
was
85 now, Jordan.
yeah.
So I'm
You look great. You look
yeah,
great.
yeah.
But I'm telling you, yeah, that was the one strength that I think I needed because
Mm,
then all of the other weaknesses, over trading was a weakness, right?
yeah,
And now
yeah,
adding to my trading plan that I'm going to go for no more than 2 to 3 trades a day,
yeah,
win or loss. That helps. Going on tilt, right? Yeah, getting real emotional after a really big loss,
yeah,
obviously because you over leveraged.
yeah,
That was a big struggle for me.
yeah,
Blowing your account just for no reason at all, just
yeah,
overreacting, all of that
yeah,
stuff. Or you can name all of the
yeah,
things that traders struggled with. I struggle with them all,
yeah.
and
Likewise.
and it's yeah. And I tell traders all the time, you're not really going to change yourself so much,
Mhm.
but you can be more aware of the things that the you can be more aware of yourself and the things that you struggle with, and you
Mhm.
can put things in place so that you can be successful. And I
Yeah,
think that's the goal, understanding, okay, if you really are an overtrader, then put in your trading plan that you are taking no more than this many trades, or this is your trading goal, and you follow that plan and you abide by
mm,
that plan.
yeah,
It's the reason why I kind of like on the future side, which I've been dabbling in a bit. I do like when it comes to some of their prop firms, they have some of their risk settings allow them to limit your loss for the
mm,
day, and it locks you out for the
okay,
rest of the day. I love that feature because sometimes
hmm,
a lot of traders need that. It
yeah,
can prevent you from going on tilt. It can prevent you from doing something that you'd really regret. So,
yeah.
doing just putting things in place that will get you successful,
Mm,
and over time analyzing what other areas are you struggling with, and then
yeah.
you eventually turn those things into a strength.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and there are so many tools out there to help traders. You just need to identify your problem first. It's like anything in life. You've got a problem. First, you've got to identify what it is,
Yep. Yep.
and then there's things you can put in place to combat that. You may not overcome the problem, but you've got something that will handle the problem, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
So yeah. Yeah, brilliant. And then, as your trading journey's gone along, Jordan, and you're, in a good profitable place now, and you're going to share your strategy with us in a bit. What would if you went back 6 years, if you had to
Hmm.
write yourself a letter and say, Jordan, do this, don't do this, do that, what would be in that letter? What would you tell your first trader self when you started?
Honestly, Tom, the letter will be very short. It'll just be 2 words. It'll be very short. It'll just be 2 words. And the 2 words will be don't quit.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't think I would change anything. I think I needed to go through all of those rigors. I needed to go through all of that, the heartache of
Yeah.
losing account and losing all that money. It just builds you. You just
Yeah.
need that. And like this, I would never, even though I know what strategy works for me now, I wouldn't want to expedite that to my younger self. Because I
Yeah.
feel like all of the experience from the things that didn't work also helps me on the chart.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
simply don't quit. And I guess 6 years, if I'm seeing a letter from the future that says don't quit when it comes to trading, I certainly wouldn't quit. So
Yeah.
that would be all I needed.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, yeah, great point again. Yeah, and this, you need to go through all the pain, all
Yeah,
the sacrifice, like anything that's worth doing, and can
yeah,
have great potential for you and your life. You have to go through the pain, and I've certainly been through a lot myself, Jordan. So
yep.
yeah. And then thinking of you as a trader now, then, Jordan. So you've been on this journey, you've got to a place now. How would you describe your trading? Are you intraday, scalper, swing trader? How would you describe yourself? How long are you typically in a trade? How many
Yeah.
trades a day? These sort of statistics around your trading.
Yeah. I would definitely classify myself as an intraday. I think I tried to be a scalper, but it doesn't. It gets my anxiety up just a bit.
Yeah.
But
This
I'm
grey
more.
hair is
Yeah.
because of scalping.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. But I'm definitely more of an intraday. When it comes to the forex side, I'm going for like I really mostly trade gold. So I'm going for like 50 to 100 pips, and I'll get that maybe you could say within an hour, 30 minutes, maybe even
Okay.
quicker, depending on momentum.
Okay.
On the future side, like I said, I've been dabbling on that. So I've been trading NQ. And I think on that side, I might be more of a scalper
Mhm.
because, I'm going for those quicker moves. I'm kind of testing that side out a little bit more. But definitely for the core of my trading, I'm more of an intraday and
Okay.
going for those, solid setups for the day. And I'm going for no more than two trades. So
Okay.
I'll take one crack at it, not successful, take one final crack at it, and then call it a day.
Yeah. Okay. And what sort of risk to reward are you looking for? What's your sort of win percentage? I mean, me personally, I let the chart dictate all that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
almost like you can't, I know where to put my stop. I know where my target is, and whatever that risk to reward will be, will be.
Hmm.
I don't,
Hmm.
I'm not one of them traders that says, well, I want a risk to reward. I'm not going to get out of bed for anything than 1:2. But
Hmm. Hmm.
maybe you're different, Jordan. How do you approach that?
Yeah, similar to you, but more so on the stop loss side. It has to be based on market structure for me, the stop
Yeah,
loss.
totally.
Now, there's typically a certain point at which my stop loss usually is
Mm.
because I just over time I realized that's typically where structure tends to be for me, which is around like 50 pips for me on the forex side. But I do like having a profit target just because of an experience thing with gold. I
Mhm.
feel like after I get to that 100 pip mark, it kind of gets you kind of get into that greedy area.
Yeah.
And yes, you can have a runner every once in a while,
Mhm.
but I do feel like over time I've realized, you know what, I think that's more than enough for the day.
Yeah.
Even at that 50 pip mark, I'm at break even and I'm trailing my stop loss.
Yeah.
So, once I get to 100, I'm more than satisfied and I feel like I should not be leaving with less than that.
Yeah, sure. And rarely will it just tear off. The
Yeah.
market
Yeah.
is going to have, a retrace, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
you can take profit and even get back in on that trade anyway, is how I think
Yep.
of it.
Yep. Yep.
So, all right. So we've been talking about your strategy then, Jordan. Let's sort of, if we could take a look at a typical setup for yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something you're looking at today. If not, no problem. Just a typical setup and what you're looking for in the market.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. I'll share my screen shortly. Can you see
Okay.
my screen?
Yeah, all good. We can see that. So the gold hourly chart.
Yes. All right. So first of all, typically what I do, let me just save this spot first so I can come back to it. But what I typically do, I start with a top-down analysis with a higher time frame, maybe the daily time frame. And my goal is to mark out the areas of support and resistance that I see on this time frame. So since the area that I'm going to choose to trade is around here, I'm going to mark up all of the areas around there, right? So I'm going to start from marking up the obvious areas of support and resistance, had a support there, had an area of resistance, and I usually like to drag these across through the candles because they tend to come up again, and they end up being significant. So,
Yeah,
and
sure.
finally, an area of support right over here, and I'll drag that across as well.
Okay.
I go down to the 4 hour, and I continue to do this
And sorry,
throughout the
Jordan, is
time.
daily direction important to you there? That you need to be
That's
with daily trend? Not really.
That's a good question, but not really because of how I trade with support and resistance, right?
Okay.
I trust me, I'm definitely one who supports following the trend.
Mm.
And I prefer to be following the trend. But what I've realized, at least with this particular instrument,
Mm.
is that it really has a high success rate when it comes to support and resistance breaks overall, whether that follows the trend or not.
Yeah.
So that may not apply to every single instrument, but yeah, I
Mhm.
realize it applies to gold a lot.
Okay.
So going to continue on this time frame and look for more areas of support and resistance. If I don't see that, that's fine, but I'm going to continue and look for them as I go down the time frames. So 4 hour, I'm good. I'm going to go down to the 1 hour for the final look. And here on the 1 hour, just going to mark off this area right over here. Came down here, formed the area of support. And notice how this was an area of support over here.
Yeah.
and then became an area of resistance over here.
Yeah.
Again, another reason why I like to drag these all the way across the candles because they come to be significant again. All right, so now I want to get to the 30-minute because this is where I execute my strategy, right? This is why I call it the BC30.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to do essentially here is I'm trying to get to the 30-minute. I want to then identify an area of consolidation. I want to box in price. And if I can also see a clean range towards my left-hand side, that's golden for me.
Okay.
So let's do that together. So I'm going to remove this so it's a bit more clear. Sorry. All right. So I'm looking at this particular area right over here,
Yeah.
this area of consolidation. So we know that it's sitting on this area of support over here. And we'll continue to box it in because we see that it has created an area of resistance as well.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is wait for the break above this area of resistance and let that body of the candle close on the 30-minute.
Mm.
In this particular case, this is an example of that, where the body of the candle closes on the 30-minute time frame and above the area of consolidation.
Yeah.
And then we want to get in on the next candle. And then we want to ride that all the way up. Now we can continue to do this, right? So long as we get to a major area of resistance, since we are on the buys here. All right.
Yeah.
So my next major area of resistance is up here, right? Really more so up here, right? If we're being more accurate, that's my next major area of resistance. So as I take this first trade, this first setup, right over here from this candle, I realize I also have an opportunity to take, sorry, and we're doing the stop loss by structure. We're going to put the stop loss right under this candle and we'll ride this up. And then we have another opportunity because this retest over here, we just want to box it in where it formed a small area of support, right? And did it form an area of resistance? This is that area of resistance that it formed. And we're waiting for that breakout, right?
Yeah.
Outside of this area of consolidation again. And that breakout again happens on this candle
Yeah.
where we completely broke out this area of consolidation on this candle. So we're going to then enter on the next candle. Now, the only other rule that I'm using is that on the next candle, I do want to see it start moving past the previous candle first, right?
Mhm.
Ideally, sometimes I do like to wait for a wick to the downside before I enter, but if it's aggressively moving past, I may go into that next candle because most of my confirmations have been met.
Okay.
So go in through that candle, put my stop loss below the previous candle again, and again another very successful trade. Both trades no drawdown, but either way, if there was drawdown, that'd be completely fine because it is a very high quality setup. And again, you know gonna continue this on over and over and over, and this is where following the trend really does become your friend
Yeah.
because you'll find this setup over and over and over again. It'll break out, you enter on the next candle, you'll ride it to the upside up until you can't do it anymore.
Sure. Well, you are trading with trend just on the lower time frame to the
Yeah,
next
yeah,
higher time frame area of support or resistance. Yeah.
exactly, exactly,
And
exactly.
and stop losses are below the M30 entry candle.
Correct,
Correct.
correct.
Okay. So you normally have quite tight stop losses, and obviously you want to see that
Yeah,
breakout, just literally
absolutely.
break out and have momentum.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. And do you look at anything else like volume for that momentum, or you can really see it in the candles, I always think. But is there
That
anything else you use for that?
That's a good question because so depending on your instrument, the time of day that you trade is going to be important, right? Because that's when the volume is coming in. So I really do rely on the volume because in order for us to break out of those areas of consolidation, you need that volume. So it's very important that I'm trading in the session with Forex. We have the New York session. That's going to be the session in time where gold is going to be a little bit more volatile.
Yeah,
So
sure.
during that 8 a.m. right to about you could say 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for me is going to be the time where I like to trade because that's when most of the volume is going to happen. We'll see those big breaks out of those areas of consolidation during that
Sure.
time.
Sure. And your risk to reward is dictated by the next area of resistance in this case. That's,
Absolutely.
yeah, you
Yes.
let the market
Yes.
dictate that.
Yes. So yes, but at the same time, so that's a great question. So for example, at the same time, I'm completely satisfied if I'm like at 100 pips. So if I know the next area of resistance is up here, right? But as I get into this trade, I'm at 100 pips right about here.
Mm.
So at this point, I'm watching the trade and I'm willing to let it go. But
Mhm.
if I'm getting an aggressive pullback, I'm more than satisfied taking my profits.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Willing to let it go because I know it has an area that it can get to, right? Area of resistance. But as we've seen, there are certain times that price doesn't get all the way there,
Yeah,
so better be safe than sorry sometimes.
yeah, sure. All right, Jordan. Well, yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, Jordan. Everything you said, we're pretty much on the same hymn sheet. This is a lot of things I preach about on my channel, and it's been great talking to a like-minded trader. Thank you very much for sharing your setups with us today. And guys, if you've enjoyed what Jordan has had to say and enjoying his setup, then please go check out his links below this vid. You won't be disappointed, guys. And Jordan, thank you very much for your time, my friend, and we'd love to have you on again sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Tom.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Cheers, Jordan. Thank you. Bye.